All right. So, Jameson, do you want to give a quick rundown to the people of who you are, what you do?
Sure. Yes. My name's Jameson. Work at Concept2 in the marketing department. Been there for, I guess it's almost 8 years now, which is kind of crazy.
That is great because I remember when you interviewed, and I always think I'm like, Jameson's been at Concept 2 for like probably 2 years now. It feels like 2 summers ago you did your interview, but nope, 8 years ago. Yep.
Yeah. No, and that's what's so crazy too is like the timeline. Like I'll have memories pop up, and it's like you and Tyler at regionals, and it's like 8 or 9 years
Yeah,
ago, and I'm like, what? That was that long ago?
dude, it hits me all the time. Like there's a couple pictures of Tyler and I. So anyone that doesn't know Tyler, original like the first training partner. He and I went to regionals a bunch of times together. But just we're just one big group of friends, and yeah, like just seeing like I'll see pictures of Tyler and I training together, doing like a partner deadlift, and it's like 8 years ago today, and I'm like, what? I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna be 50 so fast.
Seriously though, it feels that way.
Yeah. And so a little bit of background. You and I met probably about 9 years ago at Champlain Valley CrossFit.
Yep.
We were both members at the gym, just going in, and then it was like on the usually Saturdays were like the competition days, where like sometimes people from Boston, New Hampshire would come up, and it was just Metcons all day, garage doors open. But then I remember going into the 2014 games, and you were one of my training partners. You were one of my pacers. So the workout in 2014, one of the workouts that got announced was the triple threes.
Yep.
So 300 double unders, or no, it was 3,000 meter row, 300 double unders, 3 mile or 3 kilometer run.
Yep.
And I think I rode against Dell, who is, what's Dell, 6'6", 6'7".
At least maybe even 6'8".
Yeah. And at the time, like 275, just an enormous human being. So rowing against him, I'm losing 10 out of 10 times.
Yep.
And then I would do my double unders against Tyler because he was just like super fast at them. And so get my butt kicked there, trying to keep up with him. And then for the run, I specifically remember running behind you. And I was trying to sync my feet up with your stride. But as you can see, a bit of a difference in legs. But I was just trying to tuck in. And I remember you encouraging, like, yo, calm down your breathing. I'm trying.
Oh, it's so funny looking back, and like honestly, that's like my one claim to fame is I was like, yeah, I like would pace Matt for this one very particular thing. Like it's funny that you even include me in those Saturdays because it was like the like elite games regional level athletes would be doing something, and then I would be like off in the corner doing like only double unders and running, like my own thing.
It's all about the company, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so anyways, now you work for Concept2, and like my relationship with Concept2, I feel is very special. One, Concept2 is in Vermont. So, I to the point I remember growing up with Concept2 rowers in my house. No one ever used them, but like I remember my dad knew one of the employees, and so he just knew about the product, knew how much they were, and like if somebody didn't know what it was at a garage sale and they just threw $25 on it, my dad would grab it. And so like we had these rowers in the house, and then I actually started CrossFit. And I remember my dad being like, I think I have one of those rowers. And I was like, what? Why? Why do you have one of these rowers? And it was one of the old ones that had the wooden handle.
Yep.
So everything else was pretty modern on it. Looks like it does today. But yeah, it had the wooden handle on it. And I remember the Concept2 rower was the first thing that I identified as a weakness and wanted to hammer it. And anyone that's in the CrossFit space and familiar with Concept2, everyone knows Greg Hammond.
Of course.
He is the guy that for years was at every competition. He was the Concept2 guy.
Since the first CrossFit games.
Yeah. And to the point that people are like, oh yeah, he's the one that owns Concept2. And it's like, no, he doesn't. But and the owners are just like, yeah, sure, go with it. But I remember I was in the back room of Champlain Valley, and I realized like, all right, my cardio is terrible, and my worst form of cardio is on this machine. So I'm just going to do it until I love it. Like I'm going to do it every day until I love it. And So I pulled a number out of a hat. I was like 5,000 meters a day. I think that's a good volume. And I was like, I'm just going to hit it until I know it like the back of my hand. And I think it was like the second day, Greg walked in the back room, walks in the back to like grab a kettlebell or something. He watches me for maybe 10 seconds. And then he's just like, just stop. Stop what you're doing. It's so bad. And I was like, okay, can you teach me how to do it right? And then, he took the time. He had nothing to gain from it. He was just trying to help somebody using a piece of equipment that he's passionate about. And for myself, that was one of the first times that I took a step backwards and to what I thought to take 2 steps forward, but I took 5 steps forward of let's take away the intensity. Let's take away any variables. Let's work on the technique.
Yep.
And then once that's familiar, you don't do it till you get it right. You do it till you can't get it wrong. And so that was really my first experience with that, of learning the technique, building a good foundation, taking a step backwards to progress forward. But then over the years, like the Concept2 machines were, for me, a staple. They were my favorite machines to work on because there's no opinion. That screen doesn't lie. Your split times don't lie. Your overall, like, I love that. I like having that definitive, like, nope, no opinion involved. I either went faster or I didn't.
The data's right there.
Yeah.
You can't argue with data.
Mm-hmm. So I would love to hear a little bit, like, so I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, and these are obviously just random numbers, but it has to be 90% of the people that know the brand Concept2 know it from CrossFit.
That's a good question. I mean, and I don't know that I would know the percentage offhand. I mean, there's no doubt that like CrossFit has been so good to us.
Yeah.
And like back to what we were talking about with Greg is like,
I take that back. You guys make machines, but you also make oars.
we also make oars.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Starting with rowing clubs, Olympic rowers is where like, that's where we've started from, was trying to make oars to be faster in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And then it's funny that you mentioned like a rowing machine laying around, because I think they were viewed as like towel racks, clothing racks for years. And, CrossFit definitely, brought like the rower to the forefront for a lot of people.
Yeah.
No question there.
Yeah. And I mean, you even see the progressions of like even the names for like the first model of rower, where it was like, oh yeah, that model, yeah, that's the cat killer. Because there was no cage around the fan, Even stuff.
Love that shout out.
I've been fortunate enough to go up and see Concept2's facility. It's so cool. I meet the owners too. And I know from the lens that I see Concept2 through CrossFit, like every gym has rowers, like, so you just assume, kind of the owners reflect that. And then it's like, no, that's not their passion at all. They want to be, they like being on the water, the oars. Like I got to go up, I forget her name, but I went to her house. It was one of the owners.
Probably Judy.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Judy.
Right on the pond.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, to see the owners and see what they've done, it's so cool that it's like, oh, you're building this business for the right reasons. The most humble people. Yeah. You bump into them anywhere and you would never know the success that they have achieved, which to me, that is it speaks volumes. I love it. There's certain people in the space that you see them, you and I know because we know them, that they own and then just jeans and a hoodie, drive a basic car. It's like, wow, good for you. You're doing it because you love it, not because you're trying to impress anyone.
Yeah. I mean, as an employee, it's amazing because, the owners of the company will come in wearing a shirt that they might have gotten for free at a rowing event 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And just like the values that they've instilled, it's never been about money for them. It never was. It started as a passion of like, we want to be faster. Let's do that with oars. And then that turned into machines. It never was like, let's make money.
Yeah.
That was never the goal.
Yeah. Let's decrease the cost of producing this so that we can increase our margins or anything like that. Like, that was one of the most impressive things to me, was seeing them. And then like I went to her cottage on the lake. I saw a glimpse of her life and I was like, wow, this speaks volumes of how you run your company.
And it is a cottage. It is not a lake house. It is a cottage.
Yeah. And it was the type of thing, like, I think their son went through some form of engineering, and like out the front of their cottage it looks like a moss hut. And it's like this little mini, just stacked logs and moss and mud on top. And she was like, oh, yeah, our son built a sauna. I'm like, that is so cool. And then I forget which brother of the owners has a son that found his passion for biathlon.
So that'd be the same son.
Yeah,
Yep.
so same son, and so he saw a problem with biathlon of like the investment cost just to try it, to get a gun that fits you is deterring how many people, like that hurdle of entry to get in is so big that it's not accessible. And so seeing what he did and then hearing his parents talk about it, like, oh, his idea when he pitched us going to make a modular biathlon gun so that a group of 10 people can come in, we can fit them all really quickly for all their guns, and until they're ready to buy their own, they can use these. And hearing the parents talk about their son with what he was pursuing, they're like, it's identical. It's identical to how we started. It's the identical process to what I did. He's just doing it with a wildly accurate 22 bolt gun instead of a rower or an oar. So, it was super cool to just be in that environment and see it and see, how they're analyzing these problems and, all right, how can we make it more accessible for the everyday person?
Yeah.
So obviously, especially with opening the space, I've always had a close relationship with you, Greg, Concept2. You guys have always, the day the skier came out, it's like I had one. Like you guys made sure I had one at home. So it's always been hugely helpful, but especially now with this facility, we have 6 of everything. 6 bikes, 6 skiers, 6 rowers. Very new for Concept2, especially with like we partnered up for the HWPO LOTTO series.
Yep.
So every month we give away the winner of the lotto gets to pick the Concept2 machine of their choice. I think that's brand new for Concept2.
Very, yeah,
and
very brand new.
And that was your doing of we pitched this idea and then you guys went. How is it received? How is it? I guess how is it working? It's something so new for especially the owners. Like I feel like you and Greg, like you guys are the ones at CrossFit competitions and in the CrossFit world, whereas the owners I think are a lot more the original. They want to be in the boats or skulls.
Yeah, no. And
sorry, terminology is going to get butchered. I'm sure they're going to shake their head at me 100
No,
times.
you're good. And then and it's great too because the owners will, we for a while our building's actually under construction, but we had CrossFit classes and the owner Peter, one of them would be in there and doing them. So there's definitely a mutual appreciation for all sports. And as far as like a partnership goes, I was like thinking about this, knowing that I was going to be coming in today. It's like you've talked a little bit about like your outside perception of Concept2 values, and like we've always been community, like the people that buy our product. What can we give them for free?
So this is one point that I want to bring up, and sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, you're good.
But I think this is the best example of that community giving back. And you'll have to fill in the blanks here, but because I went to Concept2 once a couple years ago, but then went to their new, not new anymore, but their training facility.
Yep.
So what is that place called?
So and it's the owners own it. The owners of Concept2 own it. It's called Craftsbury Outdoor Center.
Yeah, and it's like cross country running, mountain biking, biathlon, cross country skiing,
rowing, of course.
Rowing. Yep, they have access to the lake. So it's a compound. There's living quarters, cabins, training facilities, trails, everything. It is an outdoor recreational person's dream.
It's a mecca. It's amazing.
Yeah. And the type of thing, like I remember walking in and seeing the gym that they had set up. It was more the functional fitness gym. And it belonged on a postcard. This like post and beam that's just beautiful, kind of cabin, rustic looking, but then just beautiful setup. And I think this tells you everything you need to know about the owners, but they wanted to have that facility available for anyone that wants to train where, finding the perfect trails or finding a place to shoot biathlon, they're hard to find. But then the big thing that they did was if you're a local kid, you get to come for free. Like it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. There's not too much to do, but they just want to make sure like, hey, if you're a local kid, we want to make sure you have activities, you can pursue these interests. And for a lot of those sports, like even something as simple as cross country skiing, it's like boots, binding, skis,
Yeah.
poles, the suit, like all that. For a lot of people, that's not an option. And so to have a place like that, that's out in the middle of nowhere, that doesn't have a ton of resources, and these people that have nothing to gain from it, they're just doing it because they know it's the right thing to do. And it's like, holy hell, like, all right, that's a goal that I want to strive after, you know? It's so impressive to me that it's like, yeah, you could very easily just line your pockets, have profit margins shoot through the roof, but no, you're doing what you love because you love it, not
100%.
yeah. So, I mean, I can't talk kindly enough about Concept2, the help that I've received from, literally like month 1 in the gym with Greg,
Yep.
years of training with you, and then now with opening our own facility and just the support of the company. It's been absolutely incredible.
I mean, yeah. And that means a ton for you to say. And like, yeah, I mean, you nailed it. It's like the ethos from the owners. And like, actually, when the Buttery brothers were just up, Buttery Bros.
Yeah.
It's funny, I guess, because their agent calls them the brothers, so I sometimes interchange. Anyway, so they were talking to Judy and Dick about Craftsberry, and they actually built, because it's the middle of nowhere, Vermont. For people that don't know Vermont, it's more dirt roads than paved, and there are no paved roads around there. But there's a paved roller rink for practicing biathlon in summer. And Judy was talking about kids now learning to ride their bike there.
Yeah.
And like seeing that. And like, so it's like they're literally creating like learning moments and memories. It's, anyway.
Yeah.
It just was.
Yeah.
So,
It's a good motivation of if you're ever wondering like, oh, all right, what's the next right move? It's just, you look at examples like that and then it makes it pretty obvious.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just back to like your original question of the why, it's like, when you guys approached us, it wasn't like, hey, we want more stuff. It was like, we want to be able to give back to our members. Mm-hmm. And that right away was like, oh, you want to help your community. That's like what I feel so much of like Concept2 is like built on.
I love getting that text every week from Sam where she's like, all right, pick a number between 1 and 212 or 550. And I just pick a random number, and then she gives me a name, and then I get to record a video of like, hey, Thomas, congratulations, you won a Concept2 machine. Go on the site, pick out whatever you want. And, for a lot of people, I remember when I started out, the thought of getting a new Concept2 machine, I'm like when you're a broke college student, it's like, man, that's a lot. But, we're just like, hey, we just want to try to outfit the world and give you the resources that you need. So, well, JMO, thank you so much for stopping by. I'm sure you're going to be a fixture here.
I hope so.
Awesome. JMO, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.